3. Hi, Madam Sasimani and dearest classmates. Myself, Nitya Darshini from Group 2. Today, we would like to present about endocrine system. But before that, I would like to introduce my lovely group members. Lok Hui Shan, our group leader, following by other group members, Dhanasilan Madhavan, Divisha Dharmalingam, Rohan Jeremiah, and myself, Nitya Darshini Ravichandran. So let's look at our topic, endocrine system. What is endocrine system? The endocrine system is a messenger system comprising feedback loops of the hormone released by the internal glands of an organism directly into the circulatory system, regulating system target organs. In vertebrate, the hypothalamus is the neutral control center for all the endocrine system. Now I will pass the mic to my friend to explain further about our topic.
Okay. Hello everyone, I am Rohan and I'll be explaining the purpose of the organs involved in the endocrine system. I'll be explaining briefly about the purpose of the 8 organs that make up the endocrine system. Okay, firstly, the hypothalamus. Next slide. The hypothalamus plays a significant role in the endocrine system. The main function of the hypothalamus is to maintain your body's internal balance, which is known as homeostasis. To do this, the hypothalamus helps stimulate or inhibit many of your body's processes, including heart rate and blood pressure. The hypothalamus also plays a vital role in controlling many bodily functions, including the release of hormones from the pituitary gland, adrenal glands, and more. Okay, next slide. Okay, now for the second organ, we have the pituitary gland. The pituitary gland is divided into 2 parts, the anterior pituitary gland and posterior pituitary gland. Under the control of the hypothalamus, the pituitary gland controls the autonomic nervous system, which plays an essential role in regulating various involuntary functions of the body, including body temperature, hunger, thirst, heartbeat, and sleep. The hormones secreted by the pituitary gland are vital regulators of most of the endocrine glands. Next, we have the pineal gland. The pineal gland is best known for the secretion of the hormone melatonin, which is released into the blood and possibly also into brain fluid, known as cerebrospinal fluid. Pineal melatonin is a hormone that regulates the body's daily clock by receiving information about the state of light-dark cycle from the environment to produce and secrete the hormone melatonin. As mentioned earlier, this hormone helps your body know when it's time to sleep. This hormone also regulates the timing of other functions throughout the body, such as when puberty starts. Next, we have the thyroid gland. The thyroid gland uses iodine from food to make 2 thyroid hormones, which are thyroxine and triiodhyronine, and releases them as they are needed. These hormones function to regulate the rate at which calories are burned, affecting weight loss or weight gain. It can also slow down or speed up the heartbeat and can raise or lower body temperature. It can also control the ways muscle contracts and controls the rate at which cells die. Okay, next we have the gonads. The gonads are additional types of endocrine glands. They are the hormone-secreting organs which include the male testes and female ovaries. Their main role is the production of steroid hormones. These organs are responsible for producing sperm and ova, but they also secrete hormones, and that's why they are considered to be endocrine glands. Next, we have the thymus gland. The thymus is a primary lymphoid organ recognized as having both immune and endocrine functions. Its major immune role is to act as the site where T lymphocytes mature before being released into a general circulation. As for its endocrine function, the thymus gland secretes a range of peptide hormones synthesized by the thymic epithelial cells. And next, we have the adrenal gland. The adrenal gland produces hormones required for a healthy life. Adrenal glands produce hormones that help regulate your metabolism, immune system, blood pressure, response to stress, and other essential functions. The adrenal cortex produces hormones that control salt balance in blood, which is aldosterone, and sugar balance, which is cholesterol. While the adrenal medulla produces hormones involved in fight or flight responses. And lastly, we have the pancreas. The pancreas creates and releases important hormones directly into the bloodstream. Two of the main pancreatic hormones are insulin, which acts to lower blood sugar, and glucagon, which acts to raise blood sugar. Okay, that's all for me for the purpose of the organ. I'll pass it to the next speaker.
Hello, myself again, Darshini. I will explain the illustration of the diagram, meaning I will explain the location and sizes of the glands according to the diagram from head to toe. Many glands, sorry for the interruption, many glands make up the endocrine system. As for the endocrine gland location, the hypothalamus, pituitary gland, and pineal gland are in our brain. The thyroid and parathyroid glands are in our neck. Following that, the location of the thymus is between our lungs, the adrenal gland are on top of our kidneys, and the pancreas is behind our stomach. For females, the ovaries, and for males, the testes are in the pelvic region. Some glands are tiny, about the size of grain of rice or a pea, for example, pineal gland, thymus, and etc. The largest gland in the is the pancreas, which is about 6 inches long. Our endocrine system continuously monitors the amount of hormones in our blood. Hormones deliver their messages by locking into the cells they target so they can relay the message. That's all from me. Now I pass the floor to my friend to continue our topic.
Hello everyone, I'm Shen. After we know how are the importance of organ, now I would like to share about the endocrine system is made up by how many organs and what is the organs included. There are mainly 8 organs made up in this endocrine system, which are hypothalamus, thyroid gland, gonads, pancreas, adrenal gland, pituitary gland, pineal gland, and thymus gland. First and foremost, let's talk about the hypothalamus in our brain. It helps to stimulate the hormones released in the pituitary gland. The hormone will be released and control water balance, sleep, temperature, appetite, and blood pressure. For next slide, secondly, pituitary gland is divided into posterior and anterior pituitary gland. Both of them will release different type of hormone to regulate our body. In posterior pituitary gland, oxytocin, an antidiuretic hormone, as we know as ADH, will be released. Oxytocin is targeting in ovary and mammary gland. ADH is targeting in the kidney. In anterior pituitary gland, it will secrete growth hormone, thyroid-stimulating hormone, prolactin, adrenocorticotropic hormone, luteinizing hormone, and lastly is follicle-stimulating hormone. For the next slide, this is divided into the left side is the anterior pituitary gland and the right side is the posterior pituitary gland. For next, this is the anterior pituitary gland will secrete the hormone, which is the growth hormone, prolactin hormone, and the thyroid stimulating hormone. For next, for the next slide, thirdly, one of the organs in endocrine system is thyroid gland. Thyroxine will be released by the thyroid gland. This hormone will help to increase heart rate and rate of the metabolism and respiration. Next, for next slide, gonads are pointing to the ovaries and testes. Both of them have different type of the hormone will be secreted. Progesterone and estrogen are releasing in the ovaries. Progesterone helping to develop the uterine lining and inhibits ovulation, whereas estrogen help to develop female secondary sexual characteristic and maturation of the ova. For the next slide. Testes will be secrete androgen hormone. Testosterone is one of the example and androgen hormone. Hormone of testosterone helps in develop of male secondary sexual characteristic and stimulates spermatogenesis. Beside that, for next slide, pancreas has secreted the hormones help to regulate the glucose in the blood, which are insulin and glucagon. Insulin converts the glucose into the glucagon to decrease the blood glucose level, whereas glucagon will convert glycogen into glucose to increase the blood glucose level. Moreover, for the next organelle I will be introduced is adrenal gland. Adrenal gland can be divided into two areas, which are adrenal cortex and adrenal medulla. For next slide, adrenal cortex will release aldosterone to increase the reabsorption of mineral salt at kidney. However, adrenal medulla will release adrenaline and noradrenaline to increase the blood glucose level and fatty acid. It also helps to increase heartbeat rate, breathing rate, and metabolic rate at cardiac and muscle. For next slide. Furthermore, pineal gland in endocrine system is important. It produces melatonin hormone to control timing of circadian rhythms, which is 24 hours internal clocks known as biological clock in our body. Next slide. Last but not least, the last organ that I will introduce is thymus gland. Thymus gland will secrete the hormone called thymosin. It helps to promote production and maturation of the T lymphocyte. That's from me. Thank you. I will pass to the next speaker, which is Dana Salad.
So, hello guys and hello madam. So I'm going to talk about, okay, my name is Dansla, and then I'm going to talk about steroid hormone, protein hormone, and amine hormone or amine hormone. So firstly, I would like to explain about the steroid hormones. Actually, steroid hormones are produced by the adrenal glands and gonads. So the adrenal glands consist of an outer cortex layer and an inner medulla layer. So adrenal steroid hormones are produced in the outer cortex layer. So the gonads are the male testes, and for the female are the ovaries. So under the steroid hormones, there are two types of hormones. First one is the adrenal gland hormones, which is aldosterone, cortisol, and sex hormones. So secondly is gonadal hormones. There are three of them, which is firstly testosterone, estrogen, and progesterone. So next I'm going to talk about the mechanism of the steroid hormones. Before that, I would like to explain a bit about the steroid hormone, which is steroid hormone causes changes within the cell by first passing through the cell membrane of the target cell. So steroid hormones, unlike the non-steroid hormones, they can do this because they are fat soluble. Cell membranes are composed of a phospholipid bilayer, which prevents the fat insoluble molecules from diffusing into the cell. So first thing about the mechanism of the steroid hormone enters the cytoplasm of the target cell, where it binds with the specific high affinity of receptor protein. So next, the receptor protein hormone complex formed then diffuses into or is transported into the nucleolus, where it reacts within the nuclear chromatin. So thirdly, some along this route, the receptor protein is structurally altered to form a smaller protein with low molecular weight, or else the steroid hormone is transferred to a second smaller protein. So next is the combination of small protein and hormone is now the active factor that stimulates the specific gene to form a mRNA in the nucleolus. Finally, the mRNA diffuses into the cytoplasm, where it accelerates and the translocation process at the ribosome to synthesize the new protein. So next, I'm going to talk about protein hormones, or known as peptide hormones. So peptide hormones or protein hormones are hormones whose molecules are peptides of protein respectively. The latter have longer amino acid chain lengths than the former. So these hormones have an effect on the endocrine system of humans, including the animals. The nucleus and the cytoplasm of secret. Okay. Next, I'm going to talk about the mechanism of the protein hormone. So next slide, please. So this is the picture about the mechanism of the peptide hormone or protein hormone. So firstly, the nucleus and cytoplasm of secretory cell, including the gene transcription into the precursor nuclear ribonucleic acid or post-transcriptional modification of the precursor messenger ribonucleic acid transcript, translation of the mature messenger ribonucleic acid, and co-translational and post-translational modification of the hormonal peptide. Okay. Synthesis of peptide hormones is regulated at one or more of the above mentioned biosynthetic steps in order to meet the secretory requirements of the endocrine glands. So once they are synthesized, the peptide hormones are packaged into the secretory granules until appropriate stimuli result in their secretion into the extracellular space. So the secretion is not uniform, but rather follows the pulsatile patterns and rhythmic changes, which in association with the feedback mechanisms. We also ensures that the hormone production is adequate and prevent the excessive release of hormones. So mostly peptide hormones are water soluble and therefore do not require a carrier protein to circulate into the bloodstream. So this property results in rapid hormone degradation by plasma proteases and a shorter half-life and duration of action compared to other type of hormones, such as the steroid and thyroid hormones. So in a summary, I would like to give a summary based on the mechanism. So firstly, the peptide hormones and hydrophilic and lipophobic, meaning they cannot freely across the plasma membrane. Then they bind to receptor on the surface of the cell, which are typically coupled to internally proteins, which is G proteins. So next, the receptor complex activates a series of intracellular molecules called the second messenger, which initiate the cell activity. So the next is, this process is called the signal transduction because the external signal hormone, considered hormone, is transduced via the internal intermediaries. So the example of the second messengers includes the cyclic AMP, which is also known as the CAMP, calcium ions, nitric oxide, and protein kinase. The use of the second messenger enables the amplification of the initial signal. So finally, the peptide hormones include insulin, glucagon, leptin, ADH, and oxytocin. So as a final part, the final hormone is amino hormone. Hormones are derived from the amino acid tyrosine and include the adrenaline, thyroxine, and thiourothyronine. So the amino hormones do not all share the identical properties and have properties common to the both peptide and steroid hormones. So I won't explain more about the amino hormones. So next slide, please. As the final part of my explanation, I would like to show the differences between the peptide hormones, steroid hormone, and amino acid. So based on the differences are based on the synthesis, storage, solubility, receptors, effects, and examples. So I would like to proceed to the next speaker, which is Divisha. That's all from me. Thank you.
Okay, hello everyone. Now I'll be explaining about relationship of endocrine system with other body systems. So first of all, the endocrine system plays an important role in the regulation of cardiovascular system, where it regulates many of its activities. Hormones are active on heart rate, ventricular contraction, blood pressure, and also blood fluid regulation. So secretions of endocrine glands, which are the hormones, are released directly into the blood, which is part of our circulatory system. Hence, circulatory system helps the endocrine system in carrying these hormones released by the endocrine glands. For an example, from the site of production to the site of action. The next system I will be talking about is the nervous system. When the hormones released by one gland arrive at receptor tissue or other glands, these receiving receptors may trigger the release of other hormones, resulting in a series of complex chemical reactions. The endocrine system works together with the nervous system to influence many aspects of human behavior, including growth, reproduction, and metabolism. The endocrine system also plays an important role in humans' emotions. The next system is about the immune system, which is the host defense system that combines multiple mechanisms to protect an organism from several pathogens and also development of disease. The endocrine and immune system crosstalk and produce multiple immune processes that are involved in endocrine diseases. Defects of immune tolerance associated with genetic environmental factors result to the development of autoimmune disease like thyroiditis and diabetes mellitus type 1. So this is about the systems. And the next part that I'm going to talk about is the next slide is medical problems related to endocrine systems. Endocrine disorders or endocrine medical diseases are related to the endocrine glands of the body. Most common endocrine related diseases are related to improper functioning of the pancreas, pituitary, thyroid, and also adrenal gland. Common endocrine diseases or disorders include the diabetes mellitus, which occurs when the pancreas cannot release normal regulatory hormones or when the body cannot respond properly to these hormones. So this results in an inability to regulate blood sugar level, which can cause serious and wide-reaching symptoms. The second disease is Addison's disease, which is caused by the damage to our adrenal glands, resulting in not enough of hormone cortisol and often not enough aldosterone as well. Our adrenal glands are part of our endocrine system. They produce hormones that give instructions to virtually every organ and tissue to our body. The third disease is Graves' disease. What causes Graves' disease? It is because the body's immune system reacts to the thyroid gland and produces excessive proteins, which are called antibodies. So these excessive proteins are not good for our health system. The next is hyperthyroidism, which is a condition where our thyroid is overactive and releases excessive T4 and T3 hormones into our bloodstream, creating an hormonal imbalance and causing our metabolism to speed up. Other diseases that are related to endocrine system are also hypothyroidism, Hashimoto thyroiditis, Cushing syndrome, and prolactinoma. So usually modern treatment is quite effective for endocrine disorders and severe consequences of endocrine dysfunction are rare. However, untreated endocrine disorders can have widespread complications throughout the body. Lastly, regarding the risk factor of endocrine diseases, it is basically because of elevated cholesterol level, family history of endocrine disorder, inactivity, personal history of autoimmune disease like diabetes, poor diet, and also recent surgery, trauma, infection, or serious injury. That is all from me. Thank you so much.
That's all from our group. Thank you.